Boom shakalaka. Welcome again to the channel. Today we're going to talk about the halving cycle. How is that going to affect your portfolio, and more importantly, how is that going to affect our favorite coin, Aerodrome? First thing, make sure you press that like and subscribe, and also check me out on Twitter. And if you're interested in joining my Discord community, the link is in the description below. We're basically building a community of like-minded individuals who are interested in sharing some of the deep dives, undervalued altcoins that are probably going to make you a lot of money. So let's get started right now. The halving cycle just passed last night. I was just clicking on my laptop here, and I saw that we were literally countdown by the hour. And one of the things I always get a lot of people asking me is, how is this going to impact altcoins, and approximately what time should we be expecting some sort of rally? Now, looking back at the last couple of years since 2012, we had pretty much a lot of chop action prior to the halving. In December 3rd, 2012, when the halving hit, we had a couple of days of chop, and all of a sudden we just blew up to the upside, leading up to pretty much 2 years worth of rallies. Now, granted, that was a long time ago and things have changed considerably, but looking at 2016 of July, Monday, we had the halving, we went down a little bit, a lot of chop action sideways, and then boom, we went back up again, peaking 2 years in 2018. Now that brings us to May 20th, May 11th, Monday, 2020. The halving event was our third one. We had a lot of chop action for a couple of days, couple of months, actually a couple of months, actually a couple of weeks, couple of months, not a couple of days. And then all of a sudden, bam, and our top was sometime in 2021. Now this is a little different because this one actually had a double top. So this specific one did not actually repeat the same type of pattern as we saw in the previous ones. And there's a lot of reasons for that one, but mainly it was because we were in a pandemic and there was a intervention by the government into this, and that created a whole mess. And also at this point we had already hit $1 trillion in market cap, so it was a little different story. Now, halving 4 was in April, just Monday the 22nd, just yesterday. Well, not yesterday, but this one basically just occurred today. This is a little inaccurate. And we are basically chopping around right here at 60,000. Now we did go a little bit lower, but it seems to me that it's the exact same pattern. So the expectation here is that the rally is going to run up to somewhere in the $150,000. Now this gray box that you see right here can indicate lower prices, but we're probably not going to go anywhere really back down below 20,000 if that's what people are thinking. So the general game plan here is the altcoins are usually going to rally right after Bitcoin peaks. Now, it doesn't really kind of make sense because you might be thinking, well, shouldn't the altcoins go with Bitcoin? And the answer is yes and no. There's some of them that are going to go with Bitcoin, and there are some that are going to lag Bitcoin because that's where the speculation is. If you recall, this second rally that we had in 2022 was when we had a lot of the meme coin frenzy starting. So in a way, people got a second chance to make some extra gains or get out of the market in case that they felt that they were bearish. Now, this one I remember in 2017. This was a very interesting one. This rally really just kind of blew up, and a lot of the gains happened right here in this tail end of this rally, a lot of the altcoin market. So that was like a 2-3 month period going into 18, and basically at the beginning of 18 it just kind of went down. The 1 in 14 was a little different. Like I said, every one is a little different because you had different players, there was different coins, it was a whole different era. And in each era, I like to call them, there was a very specific type of narrative that went in. For those of you who were in the 17 market, that was the ICO market, that was Ethereum. The 2020, 2022 market was really DeFi, and a lot of the NFTs and meme coins that come on. This 2012 was a lot of Bitcoin clones that came out, Litecoin specifically, and there was a lot of, this was pre-Ethereum, so a lot of it was Bitcoin kind of copycats, Dogecoin, things like that. Now, the only thing I want to mention about this is you have to make sure that you're timing this correctly, because by the time we get to this period, the altcoins are going to rally really hard back to back. And so that's usually about a month or 2 months of altcoin gains. And a lot of that comes from the fact that Bitcoin rallied that hard. So most people do expect that. Now, one thing I also want to mention is that we are heading into a larger market cap. So don't expect the same parabolic moves that we saw here and here. Although I do expect something more along these lines where we're not getting that huge parabolic move, but we're getting a muted move up. But nevertheless, it will probably be at least a double. Now, keep in mind that this chop action, had you bought Bitcoin, it was around that 9,000 area. If you kind of ballpark it, 9,000 and went all the way to 60. So that's a 6x gain. This one right here was around $600, believe it or not, $600, $400, and went up a little higher. So if you were early, it was literally a very good time to have bought Bitcoin because you would have made more than 6x on your money in 2016-17 and even more so in 2014. So obviously it pays to be early. And because you are probably late in the cycle, if you're coming in early, if you're coming in now, you're not going to get that massive move. Now, the other thing I also want to mention is that the moves here are going to be a lot less violent, meaning that we actually had a lot of drawdowns here. In 2017, we had about 20-30% drawdowns. The 2020 market, this was not as big. In fact, there was really no big drawdowns from that 2020 chop action to the rally, with the exception of that double top. And what that tells you is that there was a lot more sustained buying pressure, and most people didn't really sell Bitcoin as much. So I don't expect that to happen here as much as well. Even though Bitcoin has come down a lot from its high, I don't expect this to happen just because it's a bigger coin, obviously. And the second thing is we have institutional holders that are most likely not going to be trading this like the way people did it back here. So volatility is going to be a little muted, but it's going to be a lot more predictable. Another thing I also want to mention is if we do get to the $240,000 or $300,000, do expect us to retrace quite substantially. And it's going to be somewhere along these lines. And the reason is because as the market starts to get more mature, a lot more, people are going to be introducing products like shorting and options and things like that. Although right now there is no options product, there most likely will be once we start getting to this area. Now, also one last thing, back in the 17 market, and actually this 2020, this period, we did have futures, Bitcoin futures being introduced. So that created a level of volatility that was not in the market prior. And also it kind of muted some of the gains as well because most people started to trade futures instead of trading spots. So this market literally saw the effects of the Bitcoin futures market coming in with CME. And I think now that we have the Grayscale ETF, we also have all of these different ETFs, I think that also is going to mute a lot of those moves up and down. Okay, so now let's talk about some of the altcoins. So the first thing is, if you take a look at the altcoin market, let me go back to the altcoin market real quick. There is going to be a couple of things with projects like Arrow, because number one is a lot of people are going to be trading altcoins. And so as you recall from our previous videos, the altcoin market is just going to pretty much benefit. It's going to benefit Aerodrome quite a bit because right now, Aerodrome is trading like as if it's only going to have a $760 million TVL. And I suspect that because base is extremely cheap relative to some of the other L1s and L2s, this number is just going to go up once Bitcoin cracks 100,000. So overall, I'm still very bullish on the project. I'm not necessarily bullish on the short-term price action because that's obviously depending upon headline news and things like that. But overall, if you are bullish on the overall altcoin market, this is going to go up to several $billion in a couple of months. So I don't think that a lot of people are focused on that. I think they're focused more on the price action because they're seeing their coins drop and they're like thinking to themselves, oh, I think this is the end of it. But the one thing I will say though is Aerodrome does go down a lot further. It's probably going to be a very good opportunity to pick up some more, just because the way I'm thinking about this, and again, you guys have to kind of look at this, is that you really want to look at the prices based off of the fundamentals. And so right now, Aerodrome is literally riding this upward trend line, but it's not necessarily crashing. I don't know if that makes sense. So now, granted, we did have the 240 mark and a lot of people got caught buying here, but overall, it's a really, really good project that still is probably undervalued at these levels. So I would necessarily just kind of keep an eye out for it. If we do break this line and we start going to the dollar range, then obviously that would be a reassessment of whether Aerodrome is still continuing its current trajectory or whether that's something else. But either way, price action doesn't really speak for the fundamentals on this side. Okay, so what am I doing with all of this information? Well, based off what I'm looking at right now, I will be positioning myself for some altcoins, picking up some altcoins in the next couple of months. Now, what those altcoins are going to look like, well, check my Discord community because that's where I'm going to talk about a lot of them. But there's going to be a lot of them that are going to be undervalued right now as the market comes down. And what you want to do is you want to think about how you're going to position yourself in this market when we start getting Bitcoin running higher. And so hopefully you have a bag of something, because it's going to be a very interesting ride as we break past 100,000 at some point. And I think that's going to be a matter of time. If it's not whether it will, it's a matter of time. Whether it's going to be next month, tomorrow, next week, who knows? But based off the fundamentals and based off what I'm seeing, I think there's a very high chance that we're probably going to breach 100,000 this year. All right, hopefully you guys enjoyed this CBL.